Along the road, someone called out my name. It was a woman's voice, cool, low, and tinged with a bit of resentment. A hand suddenly gripped my handlebar, forcing me to come to a stop. I glanced up and locked eyes with Avery. She had a very complicated look on her face. "Have you been riding your bike to school lately? How much longer do you plan on keeping this up?" She wanted to know if I was scared of upsetting Chloe, and if I was biking home just to avoid seeing her on the bus. If that was the case, Avery was ready to stop taking the bus too. I still had no idea that she'd been blocked on my Orbit account. "Avery, what are you doing here?" I asked. She looked a bit guilty as she answered, "I'm just passing by." What a coincidence, right? I walked next to Avery while pushing my bike. I decided to be honest with her. "Chloe took my phone this morning. Without, I can't pay the bus fare," I explained. "So, a classmate helped me unlock this bike, and I'm just riding it home." Avery had been worried all day, but she never expected an answer like that. "Your phone is with Chloe?" she asked. I nodded. She'd been skipping class, so Victoria asked me to keep an eye on her. She got really angry when she found out. She took my phone just to keep me from contacting Victoria. So that was the real story. Avery felt a secret sense of relief. It was a good thing she'd hopped off the bus to ask me about it directly. Just then, raindrops started to fall from the sky. Avery looked up at the clouds. "It's starting to rain," she said. "Don't ride your bike in this. Let's find some shelter. Have you eaten dinner yet?" I nodded obediently and told her that I had. Avery tried a different question. "How about some bubble tea?" The question seemed a little odd. "Not today," I replied. "Then come on," she insisted. "Bubble tea is on me." The rain started coming down much harder, and everyone on the street began running for cover. Avery pulled me toward a nearby mall that was already packed with people seeking shelter. She tugged on my sleeve and squeezed us through the crowd to get inside. Once we reached the bubble tea shop, the mood felt a bit strange. We just stood there watching the rain fall in silence. We'd only met a few times, so I wasn't exactly sure what to say. I couldn't tell what was going through Avery's head at all. While I was taking shelter at the mall with Avery, I had no idea what was happening elsewhere. Chloe was miserable while she celebrated Adrienne's birthday. Adrienne knew Chloe had always liked him, but he'd kept her waiting for a long time. He never actually agreed to date her. Recently, though, he started to feel a bit threatened. He realized Chloe cared more about the driver's son than he'd expected. So, on his birthday, Adrienne finally made their relationship official. But when Chloe heard him say the words, she didn't look happy at all. She just frowned at the heavy rain falling outside. She pulled a phone with a cracked screen out of her pocket. Adrienne spotted the phone in Chloe's hand and looked instantly alarmed. "Chloe, whose phone is that?" he asked. Chloe was already on edge. "It's Ethan's, your driver's son. Why do you have his phone?" Chloe checked the screen. It was already 8:40 that morning. She'd wanted to stop Ethan from tipping off Victoria, so she took his phone before skipping class to spend the day with Adrienne. Now it was late and it was pouring outside. She had no idea how Ethan was doing. Chloe started to get restless. She wanted to stay with Adrienne, but she knew she had to go home. Finally, she spoke up. "Come home with me," she said. "Stay at my place tonight, and I'll drive you to school in the morning." Adrienne paused for a moment. He'd only visited the Whitmore estate once when he was a child, and he hadn't been back since then. He figured Chloe must be serious about making their relationship official. By the time they made it back to the estate, it was already 9:30. The first thing Chloe said to Arthur was to tell Ethan to come see her. "Miss Whitmore, Ethan isn't back yet," Arthur replied. "He still hasn't returned." Chloe immediately got angry. She had my phone and had promised to be back by 8 o'clock. She'd rushed back from the hotel with Adrienne, yet I wasn't even home. Arthur quickly tried to explain the situation. "Miss Whitmore, it's late and it's pouring out there. Ethan might not even have an umbrella. I'll call him to see where he is, and then I'll have Daniel go pick him up." As soon as Arthur dialed the number, my phone started ringing right inside Chloe's pocket. She reached in and irritably turned it off. "Just leave him be. If he's missing an umbrella, why can't he just go buy one?" Then it hit her that I couldn't buy anything without my phone. "Fine, I'll go pick him up at school." Arthur stepped in to stop her right away. "Miss Whitmore, you really shouldn't go out. Mrs. Whitmore is still expecting you." Victoria had been fuming all day long. She hadn't been able to get a hold of Chloe or me. Now that Chloe had brought Adrienne home, she was absolutely losing it. Arthur turned his attention toward Adrienne. "Mr. Cole, I have a guest room all ready for you. Why don't you try to get some sleep?" Adrienne looked at Chloe, and he was clearly hurting. "Chloe, can I just stay in your room?" Arthur thought that was completely out of line. Victoria was already seeing red, and this would only make things worse. But Chloe didn't care about Arthur's warning look. "I'm sorry, Adrienne, but I can't be with you right now. Just go rest in my room for a bit. I have to go see my mother." At the same time, Avery and I were sitting together in a cafe. Avery mentioned that the rain didn't look like it would let up soon. Instead of just sitting here, why don't we go upstairs and see a movie? It felt a bit weird since we weren't really close enough to go to the movies together. Avery, you don't need to stay here with me. I'm fine waiting until the rain dies down. Did you already forget about that creep on the bus? It's getting late. You're all by yourself and you don't even have a phone. That isn't safe at all. Are you really planning to bike home in this? Avery gave me a stern look. Under that gaze, I instinctively shook my head. Avery stood up from her seat. Come on, let's just go see a movie. How about that new animated one everyone is talking about? The whole thing felt a little off. Before I could even say anything, Avery checked her phone. It starts in about 20 minutes, and there are. I lunged forward and snatched my phone back. Chloe was thinking about that girl who rode the bus with me, calling her just a kind upperclassman. She casually handed you a hat worth thousands, she sneered. How kind of her. I froze at that. Seriously, does a hat really cost that much? Chloe let out a mocking laugh. So, that's why you stopped riding with me. You finally found someone better to suck up to. I didn't back down. Think whatever you want. If mocking me makes you feel better, I'll just consider it my good deed for the day. Chloe looked even worse after that. I had always been so soft-spoken, so she probably wondered when I'd become like this. She had brought Adrian home and already gotten into a massive fight with Victoria. After storming out, she realized I still wasn't back yet. She couldn't reach me and completely forgot that Adrian was resting in her room. She'd been waiting at the manor gate, only to get this kind of response from me. As I walked inside, I spotted Adrian standing by the garden entrance. He looked like he was waiting for someone, and he jogged over to Chloe the moment he saw her. Chloe, I heard you arguing with your mom, he said. I also heard her say she'd kick me out. You were gone for so long and I got scared being here by myself. Why don't you just take me home? I don't want to stay. Your mom seems really upset. I watched the scene with a cold expression. Chloe had really brought Adrian home. Was Victoria about to have a heart attack tonight? Chloe hugged Adrian and tried to comfort him. Adrian, you don't have to leave. I'm the one who brought you here. She doesn't have the right to kick you out, so come back inside. If she says anything else, I'll just call Grandpa. Only then did Adrian finally relax. I looked at Chloe, who was completely blinded by love, and I wondered if she had actually lost her mind. I turned away and headed back to my room. I opened Orbit to look for Avery, but her profile had vanished. Then a new friend request popped up. It was Avery trying to add me again. I frowned at the screen. When had I even deleted her? Was this Chloe's doing? I accepted the request and sent her a quick message. Avery, are you home yet? Avery replied almost instantly. Got your phone back at last. I'm home. Thanks for checking on me. After hesitating for a second, I sent Avery $200. Thank you so much for today. This is for the movie and the ride. Please take it. Avery declined the transfer immediately. You don't need to pay me back. Just take me to dinner or a movie next time. Is that okay? I typed back quickly. Of course. I'll treat you to dinner tomorrow. Avery seemed satisfied with my answer, and she smiled to herself. Deal. The real drama at the Whitmore estate began the next morning. Victoria got up early and summoned Arthur. What happened last night, she demanded. Adrian didn't leave. They spent the entire night together. Arthur nodded reluctantly. Miss Whitmore wouldn't let us send Mr. Cole away. Victoria's face turned a deep, livid shade of red. Chloe can date, but she cannot get pregnant. Adrian's father might be headed to prison, and marrying into that family would be a total disaster. My grandchild cannot have an ex-con for a grandfather. Victoria sat in silence for a long moment. Then she looked up and asked the family doctor for some medication. As I left my room, I overheard several maids whispering in the hall. Mrs. Whitmore seems to be in a great mood today. I thought she'd be furious when she saw Mr. Cole come downstairs, but they're actually eating breakfast together. A complicated look flashed through my eyes. In my previous life, Chloe hadn't brought Adrian home like this. They never made things official before he left the country, and soon after that, Chloe and I got together. The first time I came to the Whitmore estate after we started dating, Victoria was actually very polite. She even asked me to stay for dinner. Back then, I thought she had truly accepted me. Instead, Victoria drugged me and damaged. My health was at stake. Chloe found out the truth later, but she just claimed she couldn't stand up to her mother. She brushed the whole thing off with a single sentence. Now it was Adrienne's turn to be drugged. I wondered how Chloe would react this time. I shook off my thoughts and prepared to leave, but Arthur blocked my path. Ethan, Mrs. Whitmore wants a word. Follow me. I trailed behind Arthur toward the front room. Victoria was sitting at the breakfast table with Adrienne and Chloe. She gave Adrienne a warm look. I never actually disliked you, she said. Chloe is just young, and I was afraid dating would mess up her grades. Victoria's sudden shift in attitude caught Adrienne off guard. I understand, Mrs. Whitmore. I'll make sure she stays focused on her studies. Even though they had shared a bed the night before, Chloe hadn't allowed Adrienne to touch her at all. Victoria slid a bowl of bird's nest porridge toward Adrienne. Her eyes were filled with motherly affection. "Eat some porridge." "You're far too thin." Adrienne gave her a smile and started eating obediently. Chloe sat right next to him, her brow furrowed. Adrienne was right there beside her, and her mother finally liked him. Still, she couldn't shake a sense of restlessness. That's when I walked into the room. Chloe sat up straight the moment she spotted me. I didn't even look at her. "Mrs. Whitmore, did you want to see me?" I asked politely. Victoria offered a smile. "I heard about what went down yesterday." She explained that Chloe took my phone to stop me from taking photos. She didn't want me tracking her attendance anymore. I just gave a calm nod. Chloe scowled at her mother. "Mom, are you still forcing him to spy on me?" Victoria shook her head. "No, of course not. I just think you shouldn't bully Ethan like that. Taking his phone was wrong. It's hard to get by without one." Victoria pulled out a brand new phone. "I noticed your screen was cracked, so I got you this. Think of it as a thank you for looking after Chloe. You're relieved of that duty now. Adrienne will be the one watching her from here on out." Adrienne finished the porridge and flashed a sweet smile. "Don't you worry, Mrs. Whitmore. I'll make sure she hits the books." I felt a sneer forming inside, but I kept my voice polite. "Thank you, Mrs. Whitmore. I'm heading to school now." Chloe jumped up immediately. She seemed to be in a rush. "It's getting late. I should get going too." Adrienne stood up to join her, but he suddenly grabbed his stomach. His face went completely white. "Chloe, my stomach. It hurts." Chloe looked worried. "Don't panic. I'm taking you to the hospital. Driver, get us moving right now." The driver caught a glimpse of Adrienne's face in the rearview mirror. He couldn't help but ask, "Mr. Cole, did you eat something that didn't sit right?" Adrienne started to panic as soon as the question was asked. "No, I only had that bowl of bird's nest porridge." He looked at Chloe, his eyes wide with shock. Chloe's expression darkened. A memory from their past life flashed through her mind. She remembered bringing me to the Whitmore estate for dinner with Victoria once. I had suffered from the exact same agonizing stomach pain. The doctors ran every test they could. 3 days later, they discovered a drug overdose in my system. Chloe and I had a massive fight over it. She was convinced I'd taken the drugs myself. I knew it was Victoria, but Chloe refused to believe me. Now, Chloe was watching Adrienne suffer. His symptoms were a perfect match for mine in her memories. Adrienne spoke up weakly. "Chloe, do you think something was in that porridge?" Chloe suddenly screamed at the driver. "Stop the car. Take Adrienne to the hospital. I'll meet you there." She scrambled out and rushed back into the Whitmore estate. Victoria was already busy telling the maids to clear the table. Chloe glared at one of the maids. "Wait. Leave Adrienne's bowl alone." Victoria looked up in surprise. Chloe looked absolutely terrifying. "Tell me the truth. Did you put drugs in Adrienne's porridge?" "This has made you completely irrational," Victoria snapped. "Adrienne gets a simple stomach ache, and you actually accuse me of drugging him? I'm your own mother. How can you even question me?" Victoria had used those exact words to dismiss Chloe before. In the past, Chloe had always sided with Victoria, but now regret and guilt were drowning out her logic. She and Adrienne had been together for 5 years without a pregnancy. Victoria had promised to overlook Chloe's background and let her marry into the family, but only if they had a child. Chloe's chest heaved with anger. "Right, you're my own mother. You'd never do something like this, would you? Today, you said you finally accept me and Adrienne. You even said we could get married one day, but only if we can have a child, right?" Victoria froze. She couldn't figure out how Chloe knew her plan. Seeing Victoria's expression, Chloe finally broke down and screamed, "Are you even human? How could you be so cruel?" I expected this kind of drama from the Whitmore family, but it didn't interest me in this life. Whatever happened to them was no longer any of my business. As soon as I boarded the bus, I instinctively looked for Avery. Sure enough, she was standing in the back and looking my way. I squeezed through the crowd to reach her. "Morning, Avery." She gave me a smile. "Morning. I took your hat home with me." "The Whitmore," Mason said, nodding as he checked his phone. "Don't worry, I know exactly where to draw the line." Chloe kept her distance from both school and home for a while. I managed to enjoy 2 days of peace, but that didn't last long. I ran into her again at my job at Hearth and Vine. I was busy clearing tables in my black server uniform. Chloe walked in with Brooke and Madison, heading straight for a private room. As they walked past, Chloe looked over and spotted me holding a stack of plates. Brooke sounded shocked when she spoke. "Chloe, look, Ethan works here? Is he really that broke?" Madison gave Brooke a sharp nudge. "Stop with the questions. Let's just go." Brooke glanced at Chloe and saw her dark mood, so she decided to drop the subject immediately. Chloe had been miserable for the last 48 hours. Adrienne had spent most of that time in the hospital. According to the doctor, the drugs had done serious damage to his system. He was facing a long recovery and needed constant care. Even worse, he would be infertile for the foreseeable future. The doctor estimated it would take at least a year or two. But Chloe remembered their past life. Back then, I had gone 5 full years without getting her pregnant. The same thing happened to Adrian. He would eventually figure out the truth. She had no idea how she would explain it to him then. Adrian was finally discharged today and went back to the Cole residence to rest. Chloe kept the truth about Victoria drugging him a secret. She didn't know how to tell him, and she couldn't stand seeing him look so weak. More than anything, she suddenly felt the urge to see me. She stood there watching as I politely explained the menu to a customer. A sudden wave of fury washed over her. With a deep scowl, she left her friends behind and marched toward me. I was dealing with a very difficult middle-aged customer that afternoon. She wouldn't even look at the menu. Instead, she just kept grilling me. "You're new here, aren't you? I haven't seen your face before. Do you go to one of the colleges nearby?" I kept a polite smile on my face and nodded. "Yes, ma'am. What can I get for you today?" She just smirked at me. "Working in a place like this at your age? You must really need the cash. I bet you have a ton of student loans. Can you even afford to pay them back?" My professional mask almost slipped, but I managed to hold it together. "You don't need to worry about that, ma'am. Why don't you take a moment to look at the menu? I'll be back in a bit to take your order." I turned to walk away, but she snapped at me. "Hey, I never said I wasn't ready. What's wrong with the service here?" It was only my second day on the job, and this was already my toughest customer. I was just about to go find my supervisor when I saw Chloe walking over. Her expression was ice cold. Without warning, she kicked the woman's table and flipped the heavy wood right over. I stumbled backward, staring at Chloe in pure shock. "Ma'am, what are you doing?" I rushed forward to pull Chloe away, but she stepped right in front of me instead. She glared at the woman with pure hatred. "Eat your food or get the hell out of here." The woman scrambled to her feet and pointed a finger at Chloe. "How I eat is none of your business. How dare you touch my table? Do you have any idea who I am?" She had 2 friends with her, and all 3 of them stormed toward Chloe. Chloe had been holding in her anger for days, and she wasn't about to stop now. Without saying a single word, she punched the woman right in the face. I stood there, completely stunned. A massive brawl broke out instantly. Brooke and Madison saw the chaos from across the room. Brooke yelled, "Holy crap," and ran over to join the fight. Madison followed right behind her, making the whole scene even more chaotic. I didn't waste any time and called for the shift supervisor. He came running over with 4 or 5 security guards in tow. After a violent struggle, they finally managed to pull everyone apart. The middle-aged woman looked bruised and battered. Chloe had focused all of her rage on her clothes. Her face was twisted as she screamed, "Call the police! I'm reporting this right now." The whole place was in an uproar. Everyone nearby stopped to stare, whispering to each other about the scene. As soon as Martin heard the news, he bolted from his office in a total panic. He spotted Chloe standing right in the center of the crowd, and his heart sank. He rushed over, trying to hide his shock. "Miss Whitmore, what brings you here today? Why didn't you let me know you were coming?" he asked. You could hear the fear shaking in his voice. After all, an heiress like Chloe always had a private room reserved just for her. As a premium member, she usually got Martin's undivided attention. He couldn't afford to offend such a high-profile guest. But as Martin got a closer look at Chloe, his face turned white. A cold sweat broke out on his skin. Her hair was a mess and her clothes were torn, clearly from a nasty fight. Who on earth had a death wish big enough to hit a Whitmore heiress? Martin's heart hammered against his ribs as he started to stammer. "Tell me what happened here," he asked, his voice thick with panic and worry. He knew Chloe was Victoria's only daughter. If Victoria found out her child had been in a brawl and ended up with a split lip, the consequences would be brutal. Victoria would be absolutely livid. She might even show up in person to demand an explanation. The middle-aged woman wouldn't stop shouting. "You're the manager? Good. I was just trying to have a quiet meal here. Then your server started acting up, and his friend actually attacked me. I'm calling the police and I'm suing every one of you." Martin frowned and looked over at me. I opened my mouth to explain, but Chloe stepped right in front of me. She glared at the woman with pure ice in her eyes. "Leave the server out of this. I hit you because I can't stand looking at your face. You want to sue? Go ahead and try it." Brooke frowned and pulled out her phone. "That's enough. I'll let my lawyer deal with this. We're hungry, so we're going to go eat now." Martin knew these heiresses weren't the kind of people you wanted to cross. He immediately told security to take the 3 women to the back office. Then he turned to me, his expression stern. "Come here. Listen to me carefully. You need to take perfect care of Miss Whitmore. I don't want a single thing going wrong from here on out. Do you understand?" I nodded quickly. "I understand, Mr. Wallace." Martin relaxed just a little bit. He hurried off to follow the 3 injured women into the office. He knew he couldn't let this situation get any worse. It would ruin the restaurant's name and cause him a massive headache. More importantly, he couldn't afford to get on the bad side of the Whitmores. His best bet was to talk to the 3 injured guests and figure out a settlement. He had to wrap this up quickly. Paying them off was a small price to pay compared to making an enemy out of a Whitmore. Hearth and Vine was a members-only club famous for its privacy. That's why it was so popular with the rich and famous. Their private rooms cost 5 figures a day just to rent. Anyone looking to network with celebrities or the elite came here. If people heard that a member was attacked on the premises, the restaurant's reputation would be destroyed. Kevin followed close behind Martin and whispered, "What do you want to do about the new intern?" Martin was already fuming. Even if the customer started it, the intern had brought chaos to his very first shift. He snapped back impatiently. "Just pay him for the day and tell him he's done. Don't let him come back." Kevin nodded. "Got it, Mr. Wallace. I'll take care of it." Kevin went out to find me, but I was nowhere to be seen. He started asking around and found out that I actually knew Chloe. She had already pulled me into her private room, so he headed straight for her door. I heard her voice through the shut door, so I hid her. "What's the big deal, Ethan? Why are you giving me a lecture? I was trying to help you out. Or did you actually want her to pay off your debts?" "Oh, I see. So that's the kind of guy you are." I stared at her, totally speechless, but I kept my voice steady. "Miss Whitmore, I'm not blaming you, but this whole thing got out of control. Your mother might question me once we get back." As soon as I mentioned Victoria, Chloe slammed her hand on the table with a loud bang. Brooke frowned at the outburst. "Chloe, just calm down." Chloe sneered, her eyes fixed on me. "Ethan, do you always obey my mom? You just do whatever she tells you to do." Seeing me act so submissive made Chloe absolutely furious. She thought it was a tragedy that I hadn't been reborn. I didn't realize Victoria had set me up in our previous life. She ruined my health and left me unable to have children. If I had known that, maybe I wouldn't be so obedient to her now. I spoke calmly. "I'm not obeying her, I'm just tired of all this. I don't want Victoria coming after me anymore. That's why I need you to stop stirring up trouble around me." "Chloe, I don't care what you do. Honestly, the farther you stay away from me, the better." Chloe glared at me, her eyes rimmed with red. "You're just angry," she snapped. "I don't believe you. I had always fussed over her in the past. I wouldn't let her stay up late or go out drinking. I tried to keep her from fighting with Victoria and always looked after her. When she was in the hospital, I stayed by her side day and night. She knew how deeply I loved her." Chloe just sat there, staring right through me. "You're only saying these things to hurt me, aren't you, Ethan?" I looked at her blankly. "Think whatever you want. Miss Whitmore, I'm on the clock. I need to get back to work." I opened the door and walked out. Kevin was standing in the hallway and our eyes met. He looked a bit awkward. "Ethan, do you know Miss Whitmore?" I gave a stiff nod. "She's my classmate." Kevin clearly thought we were more than just classmates, but he didn't push for details. Instead, he spoke with some hesitation. "Ethan, tonight's incident really got out of hand. It's bad for the restaurant's reputation. The owner doesn't know about it yet, but she's going to hold us accountable. Since you're just an intern, you won't be blamed. However, you probably can't keep working here." Kevin was trying to be tactful, but I got the message. I was being fired after less than 2 days. It was a shock, but I understood why. This was my very first part-time job, and I never imagined it would end this way. I felt a wave of defeat, but I quickly pulled myself together. I gave Kevin a sincere apology. "I'm so sorry, Mr. Price. You hired me and all I did was cause you trouble." Kevin just waved his hand. "It's fine, Ethan. You don't need to apologize. We all know this wasn't your fault, but our members are very influential people. In the hospitality industry, sometimes we just have to take the hit. Some places even give out hardship bonuses to their staff. That just shows how much abuse service workers have to endure." The private room was dimly lit, almost as if the lights were matching the heavy mood. Chloe sat there with a stone face, looking like an iceberg ready to shatter. She had just survived a vicious fight. The skin between her thumb and index finger had actually split from the force of her punches. Bright red blood was slowly seeping out of the wound. A dark bruise marked the corner of her mouth, a souvenir from a hard punch during the brawl. It was already starting to swell and looked pretty nasty. A server hurried over with some ice, carefully offering it to help with the swelling. Brooke and Madison stood nearby. Their hands and necks were covered in scratches too. They were marks left behind by the chaos, but they still looked better than Chloe. Her injuries were all over her face, making them impossible to miss. Brooke and Madison didn't have any injuries on her face. If you ignored the scratches, nobody would even guess they'd just been in a massive brawl. Chloe tossed the ice onto the table. It hit the surface with a sharp clatter that echoed through the quiet room, and her expression grew even darker. He watched me fight for him and get hurt this badly, yet he didn't even bother to bring me any medicine. Her voice was thick with resentment and pain. Even the ice she was using had come from a different server. I never showed up, and that realization felt like a heavy stone was pressing against Chloe's chest. Her mind drifted back to this same time in their previous life. Back then, I was so attached to her. I remember once when she got hurt, my eyes turned red with worry and filled with tears. I actually cried, then I rushed out to buy medicine. When I got back, I treated her wounds with so much care. I moved as gently as possible because I didn't want to hurt her. Even when Victoria was screaming at her, I would just wait quietly outside the door. Then I'd be there to comfort her the moment she came out. Back then, I didn't have a part-time job. My life was simple, and she was the only thing I cared about. A sudden thought hit Chloe. Too much had changed in this life. Nothing was matching up with their last one. Had Ethan been reborn too? She pushed the idea away as soon as it crossed her mind. No, that's impossible, Chloe thought. If Ethan had truly been reborn, his hatred for Victoria would have kept him from ever living with the Whites. He definitely wouldn't be following her orders now. Just then, Brooke looked at Chloe and frowned. Chloe, you really acted too rashly today, she said. Her voice was full of both worry and criticism. Do you know this restaurant belongs to the Sinclairs? You caused a lot of trouble here. If they take this to your father, you're going to be in serious trouble. Chloe froze and surprise flashed in her eyes. This restaurant belonged to the Sinclairs. Avery's name immediately came to mind. Which Sinclair family was it? Could it actually be Avery Sinclair's family? Brooke gave a nod. Her family had run restaurant chains for generations, so she knew the Port Sterling food industry inside and out. She leaned a little closer and lowered her voice. The Sinclairs mostly work in AI and renewable energy. They're massive in both of those industries. But a few years ago, they suddenly expanded into food and dining. Apparently, one of the younger Sinclairs was really interested in it, so they funded this restaurant. I don't know if Avery is actually connected to it. She's a Sinclair too, but it could just be a coincidence. Madison was standing nearby and looked hesitant. That can't be right, she said with a frown. The Sinclairs have a massive empire that covers so many industries. Would they really let their daughter study agriculture? I heard Avery grows peanuts. That's a pretty huge leap. To her, wealthy heirs were supposed to join the family's core business. The idea of studying agriculture seemed impossible to imagine. Brooke rubbed her chin thoughtfully. I'm not entirely sure. My family has never actually dealt with the Sinclairs. They aren't from Port Sterling. They're based out of Fairmont, and most of their influence is over there. Since they were Port Sterling natives, Chloe and her friends had never really met the younger Sinclairs. Still, they had their doubts that it was Avery Sinclair. What kind of elite family would let their daughter study farming? It was unheard of, and honestly, it was just unbelievable. After hearing all of this, Chloe suddenly stood up. I'll go check, she said gravely. She hurried toward the door. The room fell silent for a moment after Chloe left. Madison scratched her head and looked at Brooke. Brooke, don't you think Chloe is acting a little weird when it comes to Ethan? Curiosity filled her eyes. Brooke's face darkened. Her voice sounded sharp with frustration. She just keeps bouncing back and forth between Ethan and Adrian. She claims to care about one, but she won't let go of the other. If she doesn't stop, she's going to lose both of them and end up regretting it. A look of deep disappointment crossed Brooke's face as she stared at Chloe. Madison watched her and started to have her own suspicions. She felt a flicker of resentment toward Chloe, but she didn't say a word. Instead, she just let out a quiet sigh. Meanwhile, I was changing back into my clothes in the staff locker room. I folded my uniform neatly and tucked it away in my locker. After packing my bag, I got ready to head out. I pulled out my phone and frowned at the screen. Chloe had sent a string of messages from her secondary orbit account. Ethan, where are you? Are you still hanging out with Avery? Is she the one who got you this job? Ethan, stop taking the bus. I'll have Uncle Daniel drive you. None of it made any sense to me. In our previous life, Chloe never missed a chance to mock and insult me. She used to claim I only rode with her just to get her attention. Now that I'd finally stopped, she still wasn't satisfied. I didn't understand why she was bringing up Avery again.